Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something tonight. There's a kind of strength the world overlooks, a kind of power you can't measure with titles or applause or loud voices. It's not the kind of strength that throws punches or hurls insults. It's deeper than that. It's quieter than that. It's stronger than all of that. God's favorite woman doesn't fight with words. She doesn't wrestle for attention. She doesn't argue for respect. She already knows who she is because he already told her. She understands that silence can roll louder than any shout. She knows that patience can crush pride. Her grace is her weapon. Her dignity is her shield. Her prayers are her firepower. See, when storms come, and they will come, she doesn't panic. She doesn't post. She doesn't plot revenge. No, she plants her feet in the promises of God. She lets him fight the battle she could easily lose if she stepped into the ring with anger, ego, or fear. God's favorite woman understands something most people miss. Victory is not won on the battlefield of noise. Victory is won in the quiet places, in prayer, in trust, in obedience. She doesn't need to announce who she is. Her life does that for her. Her peace is her testimony. Her joy is her victory speech. Her kindness is her sword, and she wields it with precision. And listen, it takes real strength to hold your tongue when your heart is breaking. It takes real faith to stay silent when you could so easily tear someone down. But God's favorite woman knows something better than revenge. She knows redemption. She knows that the highest place she can stand is on her knees, and the strongest words she can ever say are, "Thy will be done." You see, this world teaches us to clap back, to get the last word, to prove everybody wrong. But God's favorite woman, she doesn't waste her breath on battles that belong to him. She knows she doesn't have to fight to be seen. She doesn't have to shout to be heard. She doesn't have to argue to be believed, because her light is undeniable, because her spirit is unshakable, because her God is unbeatable. True strength is silent, not loud. In a world where noise often masquerades as power, there is something deeply rare about a woman who knows her worth without having to announce it. She doesn't need to raise her voice to command attention. She doesn't have to throw her weight around to be respected. Her strength is woven into her spirit, into her patience, into the way she carries herself through the chaos without losing her peace. She knows that real power is not found in the ability to shout louder than others, but in the ability to remain calm when others crumble. The woman favored by God understands that storms are inevitable. She does not waste her energy trying to stop the rain. Instead, she becomes the shelter. She becomes the steady hand in a trembling room. There's a strength that comes from trusting something greater than yourself, from knowing that no matter how loud the world gets, your soul is anchored. You don't flinch when insults come. You don't stumble when accusations fly. You stand still because you know the truth doesn't need defending. Truth has a way of standing up on its own. Strength is often mistaken for aggression. Many believe that to be strong, you have to dominate every room, challenge every word spoken against you, tear down every wall built in your way. But the strongest women understand that you can let the wall stand if you know they can't block your destiny. You don't need to bulldoze every obstacle when God has already written your victory. There is a time to speak, yes. There is a time to act. But most of the time, the real victory lies in discipline, the discipline to hold your peace, to know that just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. A quiet spirit is not a weak spirit. A gentle heart is not a timid heart. There is ferocity in gentleness, a kind of defiance in remaining kind when the world gives you every reason to be bitter. It takes an unshakable soul to keep loving when you've been wounded, to keep hoping when you've been disappointed, to keep walking when you're tired. That kind of strength doesn't roar. It breathes steadily. It moves quietly. It survives storms, not by resisting the wind, but by bending without breaking. The woman who understands true strength does not perform for the crowd. She doesn't need the applause. She doesn't bend her character to fit the room. She stays rooted, confident that the applause of heaven is worth more than the cheers of the world. She knows that some battles are not hers to fight. Some insults are not hers to answer. Some betrayals are not hers to repay. Her strength lies in her restraint. Her power lies in her patience. Her victory lies in her surrender to a higher calling. In a world that moves fast and speaks faster, she moves slowly. She listens before she responds. She prays before she reacts. She guards her heart because she knows it's the wellspring of her life. She refuses to let bitterness harden her or let anger steal her purpose. Strength for her is not about domination, it's about discipline. It's about choosing peace over pride, forgiveness over revenge, silence over unnecessary battles. There is something magnetic about a woman who doesn't flinch in the face of chaos. There's a gravity to her presence, a sense of safety, a quiet kind of leadership that others can't help but notice. She's not trying to prove anything. She's not scrambling for validation. She's rooted in something eternal, something unshakable, something no storm can touch. That kind of strength can't be faked. It comes from walking through fire and coming out without the smell of smoke. She knows that her real battles are not fought on social media, not fought with harsh words, not fought with revenge schemes. Her real battles are fought in her prayer closet, on her knees in the silence where God hears the cries no one else can. Every time she chooses grace over gossip, every time she chooses forgiveness over fury, every time she chooses silence over slander, she wins. Battles the world will never even see. This kind of woman is rare, not because strength is rare, but because silent strength is misunderstood. It's easy to mistake silence for weakness. It's easy to think the loudest one is the strongest one, but the truth is, the strongest woman is the one who knows when to speak and when to stay silent, when to fight and when to let God fight for her. She carries her strength the way a tree carries its roots. She doesn't need to broadcast her power. She lives it, she breathes it, she becomes it. Victory is won in prayer, not arguments. In a world that teaches us to fight for every inch, to debate every disagreement, to shout over the noise just to be heard. The true winners are those who understand that the battle is never really out there, it's always within. Prayer is where real victories are secured. Prayer is where the noise of the world fades away and the voice of God grows louder. Prayer is not weakness. It is not retreat. It is the act of handing over the battle to the one who has never lost. Arguments can win attention. They can win a moment. They can even win a few people's approval. But arguments don't change hearts. Arguments don't shift destinies. Arguments don't bring real peace. They are temporary victories in temporary wars. Prayer, on the other hand, invites heaven into the situation. Prayer moves mountains no human hand could ever touch. Prayer changes not just the circumstances, but the person who prays. It sharpens faith, it deepens trust, it recenters the soul on what truly matters. The woman who knows where victory really comes from doesn't waste her energy trying to be right in front of people. She's not concerned with winning debates or silencing her critics. She understands that opinions change like the wind, but God's promises are unshakable. So instead of matching anger with anger, instead of meeting insult with insult, she brings it to the only courtroom that matters, the throne room of God. She knows that when she prays, she hands her burden to the one who knows every motive, sees every heart, and judges with perfect justice. Prayer demands humility. It requires admitting that we don't have all the answers, that we aren't in control, that our strength is limited, and that humility is the birthplace of true power. It's easy to argue. It's easy to lash out when someone disrespects you. It's easy to jump into the fight. It's much harder to step back, bow your head, and whisper, God, you handle this. But that is where true victory is born, in the surrender, not in the struggle. The woman who understands the power of prayer doesn't pray as a last resort. She prays as a first weapon. When trouble stirs, when betrayal cuts deep, when fear knocks at the door, she doesn't strategize first, she prays first. She invites God into the center of the battle before she even takes a step. She knows that a few minutes on her knees can accomplish more than hours of arguing, planning, or worrying. In prayer, she finds clarity. In prayer, she finds strength. In prayer, she finds wisdom that arguments can never provide. Arguments heat up the room, but prayer cools the heart. Arguments stir up division, but prayer calls down unity. Arguments inflate the ego, but prayer deflates pride and makes space for God to work. Prayer is her secret place, her strategy room, her war zone where victories are secured long before the world sees the results. She doesn't pray to be seen. She doesn't pray to prove a point. She doesn't pray because it looks holy. She prays because she knows what's at stake. She prays because she understands that her enemies are not flesh and blood, but spiritual forces that cannot be defeated by words alone. She knows that real battles are fought in the unseen, and so she wages war where it matters most, in the spirit. Every time she chooses prayer over argument, she grows stronger. Every time she chooses to talk to God instead of lashing out at people, she builds a history of trust, a foundation that can weather any storm. Arguments may offer a quick rush of satisfaction, but prayer offers lasting victory. Arguments feed the ego. Prayer feeds the soul. Arguments may change someone's mind for a moment, but prayer can change someone's life for eternity. Victory that is born of prayer is not always immediate, but it is always certain. It is a victory that does not need validation from the crowd. It is a victory that stands even when circumstances look unchanged. It is a victory rooted in faith, not sight. It is a quiet confidence that no matter what happens on the surface, the battle is already won in heaven. The woman who chooses prayer is not passive. She is not weak. She is fierce in the spirit. She is strategic with her energy. She understands that some battles are designed to distract, to drain, to detour her from her destiny. But prayer keeps her focused. Prayer keeps her aligned. Prayer keeps her strong enough to walk past provocations without losing her way. It gives her eyes to see beyond the immediate, to recognize the true enemy, and to fight the only way that guarantees a win. Grace and dignity are her weapons. In a world where anger seems to rule and pride is often mistaken for strength, she moves differently. She doesn't wield bitterness like a sword or use sarcasm like a shield. She steps into every room armed with something far more powerful, grace that covers her and dignity that upholds her. She knows that these are not weaknesses. They are the signs of someone who understands real authority, real strength, real purpose. She doesn't need to swing wild or fight dirty to win. She knows that grace can disarm an enemy faster than 1,000 sharp words ever could. Grace is not about pretending everything is fine. It's not about ignoring disrespect or tolerating mistreatment. Grace is the deliberate choice to respond to offense with restraint. It's the decision to rise above pettiness, to keep your spirit clean when the world tries to dirty it. She understands that every situation that tries to pull her into rage is an opportunity to reveal her true character. She doesn't lower herself to the level of her attackers because she knows her position is higher, her calling is greater, her identity is secure. Dignity is her armor. It protects her from getting pulled into battles that are beneath her. It reminds her that she is a daughter of the King, and that means she must move differently. She doesn't scramble for attention. She doesn't beg for validation. She doesn't engage every critic. She is not concerned with convincing the wrong people of her worth. She carries herself with a quiet strength that speaks louder than any argument could. When she is wronged, she doesn't rush to defend herself because she knows the truth will eventually speak for her. When she is misunderstood, she doesn't panic because she trusts that her character will stand the test of time. Her grace is not weakness, it is discipline. It is strength under control. It is the wisdom to know that not every attack deserves a response. It is the courage to trust that God sees what others may overlook. It is the patience to allow justice to unfold without forcing it with her own hands. Every time she responds with grace, she builds a wall of dignity around her heart that bitterness cannot penetrate. Every time she chooses mercy over revenge, she strengthens the foundation of her peace. She knows the world expects her to lash out, to clap back, to make a scene, but she also knows that when she operates with grace and dignity, she stands out. She confuses the enemy, brings surprise. She silences the crowd without raising her voice. She refuses to give the enemy the satisfaction of seeing her lose her cool. She fights, but she fights differently. Her battlefield is internal, her weapons are spiritual, and her victories are eternal. It takes a deeper kind of power to meet disrespect with composure. It takes an unshakable kind of faith to trust that holding your peace is not losing the fight, but winning a bigger one. She has mastered the art of standing firm without being hard, being bold without being bitter, being wise without being weary. She knows that grace doesn't excuse wrongdoing, it rises above it. She knows that dignity doesn't ignore offense, it simply refuses to let offense define her. Her grace leaves a mark. People may forget what was said, but they will remember how she made them feel. They will remember the calm she carried into a heated room. They will remember the steadiness of her spirit when storms raged around her. They will remember the way she didn't let the actions of others dictate her reaction. That is her legacy. That is her quiet revolution against the noise of the world. She doesn't need to announce her strength because it's evident in every step she takes. She doesn't need to argue her value because it's written in the way she holds her head high, even when others try to tear her down. She understands that grace and dignity are not just how you treat others. They are how you honor yourself, how you honor the God who made you, how you honor the purpose placed within you. They are the silent, steady weapons that win battles no one else even sees. Her life, not her words, speaks for her. She understands that in a world full of noise, true power is shown not by how loud you can be, but by how consistently you can live. She doesn't chase every conversation trying to prove herself. She doesn't wear herself out trying to explain her heart to people who are determined not to understand it. Instead, she lets her life speak. Her actions, her consistency, her spirit all deliver a message louder and clearer than any argument ever could. People may debate words, but they cannot deny the testimony of a life well lived. She is not in a rush to defend herself every time someone misjudges her. She knows that time has a way of revealing truth. She knows that that character speaks even when the tongue stays silent. Her life is a canvas, and every day she adds another stroke of grace, patience, strength, and love. She understands that a beautiful life cannot be fabricated with clever words or polished images. It is built in the quiet moments of choosing integrity over popularity, choosing kindness over retaliation, choosing faith over fear. Her consistency is her language. She doesn't have to announce her loyalty because her actions show it. She doesn't have to boast about her strength because the way she carries burdens that would break others speaks for itself. She doesn't have to advertise her faith because you can see it in the way she keeps walking with hope, even when everything around her suggests she should give up. Her life is a testimony written day by day, decision by decision, moment by moment. She knows that people will say what they want to say. They will twist words, invent stories, and form opinions. But she also knows that words fade and truth stands. She refuses to get tangled in arguments that drain her energy and distract her from her purpose. She doesn't have time to explain herself to everyone because she's too busy building something real, something lasting, something that will outlive the opinions of the moment. Her work, her faithfulness, her endurance are the answers to every accusation and every misunderstanding. She moves differently because she understands that real influence is not something you demand. It's something you earn through a life of integrity. Influence built on noise will crumble. Influence built on character will stand. She knows that applause can be faked and attention can be bought, but respect rooted in truth is rare and priceless. Ever argued that chooses the long road, the quiet road, the road that leads to a kind of legacy that no scandal, no rumor, no lie can erase. There's a confidence about her that doesn't come from ego. It comes from knowing she has nothing to hide. She can walk through fire without fear because she knows her life tells the real story. She doesn't have to fear the opinions of others when she knows her story is authored by God. She knows that every step she takes in obedience, every choice she makes in love, every sacrifice she offers in humility builds a testimony that echoes louder than words ever could. She understands that not every situation requires a statement, not every insult deserves a rebuttal, not every misunderstanding needs a clarification. Sometimes the best response is no response. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is continue living with excellence while others waste their breath. Sometimes silence is not surrender, it is strategy. It is the confidence that your life will outtalk every rumor, outshine every lie, outlast every attack. She doesn't fear being overlooked because she knows that the right people will recognize her spirit. She doesn't worry about being underestimated because she knows that God's favor outweighs human opinion. She trusts that her life, lived faithfully and courageously, will open doors that no amount of shouting could ever force open. She knows that living well is the best rebuttal, that staying true is the greatest triumph, that perseverance speaks a language no critic can silence. Her life is her witness. Her journey is her testimony. She understands that the real story is told not by those who talk about her, but by the trail of love, hope, faith, and grace she leaves behind everywhere she goes. In the end, it is not her speeches, her posts, or her arguments that define her. It is her life, steady and faithful, that speaks a word over her name that no opposition can erase. She lets God fight battles she could lose in pride. She knows that not every battle is hers to fight, and not every offense is hers to correct. She has learned the wisdom of stepping back, of lifting her hands off the situation and lifting her heart up to God. Pride would have her charging into every conflict, proving her point, making sure everyone knows she is right. Pride would have her shouting from the rooftops, demanding justice on her timeline, but she understands that pride wins arguments and loses souls. She has decided she would rather win with God than lose with her ego. There is a kind of power that comes from restraint. A kind of victory that only comes when you know when to stand still. She has seen what happens when pride takes over, how it blinds, how it hardens, how it leads people down paths they were never meant to walk. She has seen how pride can ruin relationships, poison opportunities, and delay destinies. So she chooses differently. She chooses to trust that God can do more in a moment of surrender than she could do in a lifetime of striving. Letting God fight for her doesn't mean she is passive. It doesn't mean she is weak. It means she is wise enough to recognize that her strength has limits, but his does not. It means she has come to know that true justice is not always immediate, and that true vindication comes from heaven, not human hands. It means she is strong enough to walk away from the argument, the betrayal, the disrespect without carrying bitterness in her heart. It means she believes that no weapon formed against her will prosper, not because she fights harder, but because she trusts deeper. Pride whispers that if she doesn't fight, she will lose. It says that if she doesn't defend herself, she will be forgotten. But faith reminds her that God sees everything and that he rewards those who trust him. Faith reminds her that the battles she surrenders to God are the ones that lead to her greatest growth. Every time she chooses humility over pride, she steps closer to the destiny that pride would have stolen from her. Every time she chooses peace over proving herself, she becomes stronger, wiser, freer. Letting God fight means praying instead of plotting. It means blessing instead of cursing. It means forgiving instead of festering. It means trusting that even when it looks like she's losing, heaven is orchestrating a victory on her behalf. It means walking away from drama without needing the last word. It means letting go of the need to be understood by people who aren't assigned to her future. It means being more concerned with being right before God than being right before people. Thank you. There is a deep kind of strength in trusting God with your battles. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need an audience. It's the kind of strength that sleeps peacefully while others scheme. It's the kind of strength that walks through fire and comes out without the smell of smoke, because God was the one shielding you the whole time. She knows that when she fights her own battles, she may win the argument, but lose her peace. When God fights, she keeps both her victory and her peace. She has learned that not everything deserves her energy. Not every offense is worth a war. She knows that her destiny is too important to be delayed by distractions. She knows that her calling is too sacred to be contaminated by prideful battles. She has learned the wisdom of selective silence, the power of picking her battles with prayer, and the strength of stepping aside so God can step in. She understands that some victories are only possible when you refuse to fight on human terms and instead trust divine timing. She carries a confidence that can't be faked, a calm that can't be disturbed, a hope that cannot be shaken. She knows that the God who called her is faithful to protect her. She knows that the promises over her life are bigger than any plot against her. She knows that the hands that shaped her future are strong enough to defend it. So she walks away from battles she could lose in pride, not because she's weak, but because she's wise enough to let the undefeated God fight on her behalf. So to every woman listening tonight, every woman wondering if she has to fight for her worth, prove her beauty, demand her respect, hear me, you don't. You never did. Your value was spoken over you before you ever said a word. You are loved. You are chosen. You are His, and that's the only word that matters. Thank you.